Talkapolis, the social media TV network for your city.
I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today our guest is Nick Holland. We'll be back to talk with Nick after this minute.
We would just like to offer that if you call our office and schedule a procedure that's completed by June 30th, we want to offer $500 off the surgical procedure if you mention Talkapolis.
Well, welcome, Nick. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So when you and I first met, you were still building CenterSource, which
Right.
was your high-end website development company.
Right.
And in fact, when I think I first met you, you were up for an Emerging Business Award from the Chamber.
Yeah, I think that was probably, I started CenterSource in 2004. It was an IT company for 2 years. And then when we started with the interactive and the digital stuff, it was around 2006/7, so it was probably around then.
And you stuck with that for several years, and then kind of what happened? Did you get a little bit of an itch to do something else? And talk about that transition from CenterSource to trying to launch Popular Me and trying to get that business going.
Yeah,
that's quite a step to take.
It is. It's so a lot of times I say that entrepreneurs are like shiny object people. They like to start things, but they struggle to finish them. And so whenever I talk to other entrepreneurs, one of the ways that I coped with this was I had started CenterSource and over time morphed from an IT company into an interactive agency. So that really fueled that passion for a while. But as I got into that, I started looking at ways to find other things to keep me interested without necessarily stopping or abandoning the company.
I remember you talking a lot about you were really wanting to build a product. You wanted
That's
something.
right. I remember that conversation. Yeah.
You didn't want to be so reliant on billable hours forever and ever.
Yeah, a lot of companies, you have to kill what you eat every month.
Right.
And so I was really fascinated by the concept of building a product and having it have, some sustainable, predictable revenue. I mean, the irony is now I see that product companies are just as difficult as services companies. They just have their own issues. But when I was in the company, the agency, and a lot of agencies do this, I thought to myself, we can build a product. And so the first thing I did was started with a game. I don't know if you remember, we talked about it.
Yep.
So I tell entrepreneurs, get involved in things like Startup Weekend and Bar Camp because interesting side projects and ideas will come out of it. So we built a game called GPS Assassins. It's really an odd duck for Nashville, but it got around 45,000 active players. Went out, got a lot of press in the Valley, ended up selling it to a company in Seattle. So that scratched the itch for a while, but I was really looking at wanting to build something that was much larger, much more scalable, and so that's where the idea for Popular came out. So
what did you do to make sure that you didn't mess up a really good going concern that you had with CenterSource? How did you manage that transition?
I come from 6 generations of entrepreneurs, and one of the things that my grandfather and father used to say is that if you can't leave the business, it's not really a business. It just becomes an extension of you. It's just leveraged labor. And so what I started was a really short process with some people inside the company where I said, I'm going to start disappearing for longer and longer periods out of a time. So the first thing I did was with the GPS Assassins, I disappeared for a month at a time. Now I would still work there at the office, but I would say I can't work on anything else. And then when I started working with Jumpstart Foundry, which is a little micro fund here in town, I started spending even longer, so I was gone for about 3 months. And by the time you have a team who is used to being in the driver's seat for 3 months, it gives you a pretty good idea of what it's going to be like at a longer period. And so I made myself accessible to them and still am today. I'm still the owner of it. But at that point, I trusted their leadership, and I just established where every 2 weeks we check in. I check in with all 3 C-levels, and we do an hour meeting, and then that's it.
So talk a little bit about Popular Me and what that started as and what it's become. And I also want to talk about a little time you spent out of Nashville working on that project as well.
So, in Nashville, we have very strong, what I call middle of America or blue technologies, where basically It's what everyone's used to using. The innovative things typically start on the coasts because that's where our tech hubs are. So I'm in an agency and I am used to communicating with our clients, trying to close really high dollar deals. And what I wanted to do is, instead of sending like a 5-paragraph email with 4 attachments, I wanted to send a single page that was web-based, mobile responsive, looked good, played videos, and tracked when somebody opened it. And so I started having my team, my agency, build these pages for me. And it would take them about 3 days. And if I was using them in a sales capacity, you only win a handful of the deals you pitch on. And so after 2 or 3 days, they'd have to tear it down and start again. And I remember them saying, please don't make us do this anymore. And so I started thinking to myself, if you look at business people, we consume information on the web every day, but it's really difficult for us to create it. And so people such as yourself go to the level of maintaining a blog. Some even do the video stuff, but you probably know it's complex. It's hard. It takes a lot of work. You get very invested into it.
It does.
So if you were to send me today, you wanted to send me an overview of what we were going to talk about, you wanted to show me some clips of your past stuff, there's really nothing to do that other than email. And so you have to ask yourself why, and it's because there's no mousetrap for you to do that. You're not a designer, you're not technical, it takes too much work, and that's really where Popular came about. It represents kind of this overarching, simplifying trend that's happening on the web, and I wanted to simplify being able to create and share information through the web.
So this is a temporary kind of portal, so it's I want to get some information to you for a meeting, or is this
it can be
also
anything.
Permanent?
Yeah, it can be anything. I mean, really the concept behind it is a single page on the web that you can share privately. And so if you think about the web, what is it? It's always available. It is responsive to any screen size. It can play multiple media formats. It's trackable. And so because of that, it is superior to PDF. It's superior to documents. It's superior to your email in so many ways. But you don't use it every day,
right?
Because it's too complex and takes too much in terms of design.
So this
skill.
makes it easy.
So this makes it easy. We built an automatic layout engine, an automatic styling engine. We put it together so that we always say a salesperson, the lowest common tech denominator, can actually put it together.
Or even a professor.
Or even a professor.
Yeah.
And do it in a way that basically now when you do it, we make it so you can do create once, share anywhere. So these pages are shareable via social, shareable via text, shareable via email, or shareable in terms of other channels that you might do.
So is this subscription-based then?
It is a SaaS model, yep. Everything's in the cloud. And basically our typical client is either going to be a marketing department that is trying to expand their influence across the company. So they'll turn, like a marketing department at your school would give it to you and say, hey, you're well known. Anything you want to create, you can now do. You don't jeopardize the Belmont brand. You don't have to worry about doing it on your blog, but you can still put these things out there, and we can help you with that. That's the same way it works inside of an organization, that the marketing team can empower the HR department, the sales department, the internal communication department without messing with their core assets.
Well, it sounds like you got it all figured out. So why did you go for 4 months out to California and kind of put it into the pressure cooker, so to speak?
There is, so we got into a program called 500 Startups. Right. It's regarded as top 2 or 3 accelerators in the world. It's in the Valley, and for this particular batch is what they call it, we were picked as the 30 most exciting companies in the world. And when I say world, I mean there was companies from Thailand, from China, from England. And so what they do is they bring companies to the Valley and they focus on a theme. This theme was unsexy. So it's funny, our name's Popular, but we were in the unsexy batch because we basically focus on B2B services. And what they really teach you is, I always boil 500 down to 2 things. Measure every single aspect of your business. I would have told you when I first went in there, we already did that. No idea how much stuff that there is really to measure. And so now I can describe a user from when they first come to the site to when they register to every single path they take from that point forward. And the real key is what you're trying to figure out is the funnel.
Right.
And is it leaky?
Right.
And you should be able to basically band out every single step and understand where the big fall-offs are and why. That was way harder than I thought. The second thing they tell you is, if you can get your funnel to not be leaky, then the only other part to build, and it's real simple, 2 things.
Right.
Don't have a leaky funnel, and the second thing is can you find an inexhaustible supply of customers that you can purchase profitably? It's a really interesting phrase. They said it over and over again, but they said the number of viral companies that actually exist has got to be 0.1%.
Right.
The rest of us actually have to build a company. So because of that, they said if you can go find where you can find huge pools of customers that you can attract, purchase to come into your system profitably, you've built a scalable business.
Right.
Those two things are wildly more difficult than I would have thought when I got started. And so that's what I spent 4 months learning. It took us literally 4 months to figure out how to measure everything, to really dig that deep. Took lots of interesting advanced tools that we had never used. And then as far as purchasing customers profitably, that was also wildly difficult because not all customers look the same. At the end of the day, we have professors using us and they don't monetize very well.
Yep.
And then we have salespeople. They monetize great, but they are not the savviest,
Right.
out there, and so they fall out. The funnel's way leakier for them. That's just a small example.
Yeah. So are you feeling kind of on the verge of scalability on this at this point now, more than you did before? Or is it less because then you got more honest view on things?
I will say on the funnel side, I feel better than I have ever felt. And in fact, I can take what I've learned there and I'm even applying it to like the services company, CenterSource.
Right.
It's almost like Neo. You begin to see stuff, floating down in code.
Right.
On the user acquisition side, it is way less science and way more art than I had thought. And it's difficult because, literally there are studies on how a single word can change the entire ratio of people that sign up. So to your question, I would say that I feel that this year we will be able to hit profitability. However, we are what you call a funded company, and so we are in a model where when we raise capital, we're at a point where we're raising another round of capital, all of that money will go directly into growth, not figuring out the product, not trying to get to the next milestone, not even just staying alive. It'll go to that. And so I want to finish up that fundraising round, and that money will go to not only break even, but beyond. So I think we're there.
Well, let's get you back in the near future and see how it's going.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Cheers.